It being 7:12, or 6:12, so I'm on wrong time here. 6:12, November the 10th, Wednesday. I call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Due to the fact that we have Mark Senna ill tonight, and we're waiting on Karina, we can't take a vote on minutes. So we're going to just go ahead with the capital request presentations from the Department of Public Works. And I'll have Jarrett come up and start with the presentation. So we'll do that for informational purposes. We can't, if Karina does show up, we'll circle back on voting on the minutes.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Jared Duval, DPW Director, joined to my right here with Mike Lupus, DPW Facilities Director. I did have a presentation. The screen here seems to be on the fritz right now, so it was really just to accompany the project request forms, and I was hoping that as we kind of move through that into each operating division, basically, that we would discuss the forms and I'd answer any questions as I went through that. So I guess it's not crucial that I have the presentation, although there was some pictures that sort of supported the request and a little bit of supplemental information, but I'll just do my best from memory to speak to those items. So pleased to be here tonight. Before you, you have the DPW's FY23 to FY28 Capital Improvement Program. Part of the mission of the Department of Public Works is that we plan, construct, maintain the town's infrastructure to support, enhance quality of life, environmental sustainability, economic growth, public safety. So our hope is that the program that you see tonight helps us achieve that mission. So what I'll do now, I guess, is I'll just start. I assume obviously you have these project request forms or capital submission forms in front of you. I'll start with facilities projects, just so I can get Mike out of here as soon as possible. And so without further ado, the first project submitted here was the fire headquarters HVAC replacement project, slated for fiscal year 23, an estimated cost of $30,000. So this project's scope is to replace the existing HVAC system at the fire headquarters. This is a resubmission. So some of you at least may have seen this before, Mr. Ewell, I'm sure. So the benefits of the project, an impact if not completed, the replacement HVAC system will eliminate frequent need for service due to mechanical failures. It'll also make it possible to properly redistribute the airflow throughout the building. So it's bringing the current system into the 21st century, essentially, right, with new equipment. So with the hope of reducing operating and maintenance costs by means of a newer, high-efficiency system.
How old is the existing system?
I believe it's, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, it's original to the building.
Original.
So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That says plenty.
Yep.
And this does more of the living quarters and office areas, and not the garage bays. So this is
The upstairs, yeah. Yeah, well, I think when we built that station back in 95, 90, somewhere around, yeah. I was on the finance committee back then, and I did. That's why I kind of recall that.
Well, when the fire chief was here last week, he said something about having to expand. This is the North Station.
This is Fire
this is the
HQ.
headquarters.
Oh, this is, okay,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
This is headquarters.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so that would, so that's 30,000, and that was on some prior request back when, before the chief, when John Ballinger was performing a dual role as chief and deputy chief. Was one of his requests back then.
Any other questions with regards to that project? Or?
Any questions of the committee? John?
Nope, the only question I had was the age as well, so.
All right.
Next project is the fire headquarters roof replacement project. So this is, again, is a resubmission. The project scope is to replace approximately 8,000 square feet of roofing. The existing roofing, the total estimate cost is $275,000. The detailed scope, or a breakdown of scope, is to replace the existing 3-tab shingle roof with a metal roof to eliminate leaks in the valleys during winter season and prevent additional shingles from blowing off during extreme weather conditions, which are issues that we've been seeing over time there. The existing roof will continue to leak and deteriorate if not replaced. Spot repairs need to be performed, incurring costs in the operating budget. So the new roof will help us forego any
Now, did we,
costs incurred in the operating budget.
was there any money in FY '22, was there any money, 150,000 at some point?
So that, yeah, there was a little bit of a discrepancy there. So that money was actually slated between Fire HQ and North Fire Station. They both need roof replacements. The
Right.
greater need, based on, our evaluation
North.
and talking with them, is North, yeah. So that money was actually, I think it was listed, and it may have been an early iteration of the
Right.
overall capital plan. It was listed next to the Fire HQ building, but it should have been slated for North Fire.
And did we do that with the North?
We are
We're
working
not.
that out now. We're packaging that project. We're dealing with the same issues with everything we were talking about, fleet and supply chain issues and cost of materials. So we're seeing that the lead time for some of that's a flat EPDM roof, some of the materials there are way out, the lead times. So our intent now is to package the project, bid it this winter, get someone on a contract, and by the time those materials are available, we'll be able to hit the ground running in the spring
And
on
you
that
think
project.
150 still gonna do it? with
We think we're
inflation?
probably shy a little bit, but we've got some dribs and drabs in building improvement front from previous years that we can sort of reprogram towards that project, so that's our goal.
Yeah, anything petroleum-based. I mean, everything from paint. I went, a gallon of paint the other day. Price went up a little. And I had to wait 2 months for it, for the base. So, I mean, anything flat roof, tar and all that, and all the adhesives and everything's petroleum-based, so.
Even the insulation under the roof, they're telling me that's the longest lead time is the insulation.
Really?
That nobody has any.
So how much, is there any extra built in for what you're gonna find underneath, like sheathing that has to be replaced, or?
Yeah, sure, we always tend to build in a little bit of a contingency in our estimates, right? So, there is provisions in that number for
Mike,
that,
didn't
for
you
some
guys
unknowns.
do something with the structure underneath, the rafters of the roof or something? Wasn't there something that you had to do?
Are we talking North Fire
Yes.
Station 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, what we did was we tried to do some temporary patching, especially over the rear middle bay door, which has burned out 2 garage door openers now because water keeps getting in them.
Wow.
Yeah, we just burnt out a second one. And we've done things, but because it's leaking all over the roof, depending on the storm and how it builds up, it travels and we never know where it's gonna come in. So we've done some things over there, but it's just not solving the problem.
Now, the support rafters above, we're gonna put this roof on, but there's the support going from wall to wall. Wasn't there some issues there, or that you had to address?
I'm not familiar with that one. I know over at 3 Barton we had that problem.
Oh, did you? Yeah, well, now that's collapsing at this point, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but on this one, maybe that was before my time.
Any other questions on this?
I'm a little bit confused. The $150,000 that was appropriated in FY '22.
Mhm.
Is that earmarked for this project?
No, it's earmarked
Where are
for North Fire's roof.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're asking for 125,000, but the total estimated cost is 275. Where's the other 150 coming from for this project?
That's right. So I'm thinking you might have a earlier version of the capital project forms. I did submit or had sent some over. Katie, I don't know, finance director's here, right? That had been distributed, those revised forms.
Well, that's where I came from on this, because I did the math, and
Yeah. So there was a revision made that actually pulled, because there was a submission form for North Fire roof. So if you see that in your packet, I would say that can be, we can omit that. That can be removed. So that was, I think, out in FY '25, if I'm not mistaken.
24?
24, maybe. I have my summary sheet here.
FY '24, 171,000.
Yes, so that can come off, that'll come off, and then the new form for Fire HQ is actually, reflects that $275,000 cost.
So it won't be at 125, it'll be 275.
That's right.
270, yeah.
Yep, that's right.
That's what you're requesting for
Fire
FY
HQ.
'23,
Yes, yep,
right now?
yep,
So, okay.
And the 150's coming off,
yes.
right, all right.
Oh, just that, okay, just the summary, okay.
Oh,
So the summary should reflect that then, yep.
oh, okay.
But
great.
Yeah, the
Yes.
summary does reflect the 275.
All right.
Okay, good, good.
But the detail,
Yep.
Right, that's
you hadn't
right.
caught up to it. That's why I was kind of confused when I saw the 150, and I said, wait a minute, what, you know. All right, that answers that question. So we have the 150 for the North Station. We're looking for 275 to put a metal roof on, and so flat roof on the North Station, waiting on the materials and going out to bid. 275 for a metal roof. And the HVC controls or system for the main headquarters as well, so. Right now, we're looking at what, 315? Right. 305.
Is this the panel metal? No, these are the panels.
Should last 50 years, most metal roofs do,
Oh, yeah.
if they're done correct.
That's
Cross my
right.
fingers. If they're done wrong, they don't last long. All right,
Any questions, additional questions on that project?
no, you answered that.
Okay. The next project I have here is moving on to the library, is upgrading the HVAC controls at the library.
Now, my question on that one was, we just gave you 12,000 at town meeting with the elevator at 75.
That's right.
So is this in addition to the 12 and so we're now looking at
That's right.
46,000?
That's correct.
To get the, and I know we have some mold issues downstairs, which this hopefully will mitigate.
Yeah, so this is just the controls, right, of the HVAC system there. The money at town meeting was for a coil replacement. Was there any additional scope on that, Mike? I'm trying to
It was
recall.
mainly just to replace the coil and to
coil.
get the exhaust system
right.
back up and running.
That's right.
But, you know, if you go leafing forward, you're looking to replace the whole chiller system at the library down the road here in what, FY 24, 100,000.
Yep.
So,
So it's sort of a stopgap measure, right? The 12,000, it was an immediate, we have a mold issue, right, in the
Right.
basement there.
Yeah,
So
right,
without
definitely.
proper functioning HVAC equipment, you know, we can't mitigate that mold issue.
so that was the 12.
So that was the 12, basically.
And this
Yep.
is now, that's the control part to monitor the correct humidity. Not
Exactly.
to promote mold growth. Again, and I think you're in the process of mitigating
That's
what's
right.
there.
Yep.
And then going forward, you're gonna replace a chiller or a coil, but then you're gonna, and next year, you're gonna replace the whole system?
Right, the chiller is mainly outside,
Mm-hmm.
on the side of the building, the north side of the building. You'll see the big metal unit. That's where the main chiller is. And we're starting to have problems with it.
So, and then the 100,000 is gonna replace the whole system?
That's for the chiller system, the
Just the
outdoor chiller
outdoor, yep.
system.
Okay. I'm just questioning the timing of the 34 and the 100, why they're not kind of together, or I'm trying to, from a cost standpoint and an efficiency standpoint and a labor standpoint, why they're not joined at the hip. That was a thought I had, but maybe you could speak to that.
From what I see, and I took some photos which would have been shown, the control panel that controls all the systems in the library is almost non-existent. It's barbaric, we barely have any control in that building, so energy efficiency-wise, it's very poor. When we try to manipulate things, start, stop, when we're having problems, trying to troubleshoot things, it's always a problem because the control panel, like I said, is just so outdated, old, and very basic. It's a very basic panel. So we're recommending updating that system, the control system that controls everything in the building.
That's 34,000.
34,000. And that, Mike, again, correct me if I'm wrong there, but it'll be two different vendors too that'll be doing this work. You're looking at like a Johnson Controls, right,
Yes.
to replace. So it's not like you're looking at the same. If they were lumped into a package, then you'd have some sort of general contractor maybe
Right,
bidding
right.
it and then marking up both work. So in this case, we're addressing an immediate need with the controls, and the town is sort of GCing that project, right? And we would put out just a contract essentially for that HVAC control work to one vendor, and then the chiller work subsequently would be another, a separate company with expertise in that area, as
And then-
opposed to
and
lumping it.
That 12 that at town meeting, none of that's overlapping this 34, or is it? No.
No.
trying to figure, because there was controls there too. I mean, trying to put this in my mind. Are we looking at 46 or 34 and 12? I'm trying to, we had 12 and 34.
You're looking at the 12 on top of this, right, this 34?
Yeah.
Because that's just for the coil. This is, the 34 is just controls that operate the system, and then the 12 at town meeting was for the coil replacement and the exhaust fan replacement.
Okay, got it.
So it's all separate, these are all sort of separate
Yeah,
pieces
yeah,
of the
yeah.
system,
It's
right?
all part of the
So
system, but now
it's
I got
not happening all at once, but it's happening in short order. I understand, that's a point well taken, though, about potential for merging the, the control work and the chiller replacement, putting that, maybe packaging that as one project. But they could happen independently and still be cost-effective.
Okay, Joe?
Were these controls installed back in 2000, when the library was expanded?
To me, I wish I had the picture too, because you can even tell by the writing, I think they were old Johnson controls on there. The font looks like it's something from like the 80s. So
So when
this
the-
might have been, these might have went in during the addition, when the addition was put on way back. They're
No,
very
the
old.
addition was only put on in 2000.
I don't remember.
Well, it says it on the side of the building.
Oh, is that?
The other side of the building, yeah.
These controls are very old, and I'm sure we've got documentation somewhere, Mike, as to the exact age, but they look like they predate 2000, and I wish I had the
So
picture
when
again.
when the addition was put on, I don't know, it just seems kind of wacky that you're building a new building, you're heating a new building, you're air conditioning a new building, or
Space,
space,
yeah.
and you're trying to do it with controls that are 20 years old. If these were up in the 80s, it just seems very out of whack, unless it was a lot cost-cutting, and, we all pay for that sooner or later.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is they gotta be replaced, because you can't, and we've got the results downstairs. It's a beautiful downstairs, beautiful bathrooms, all tiled and everything, and it's being compromised by humidity, and in fact promoting mold. And we have all our historical documents down there and stuff. Yeah, all right. All right, so, any questions, John? No? All right, next item.
So that leads us right into, we talked a little bit about it already, but the library chiller replacement. This is the large unit, as Mike had mentioned. If you're looking at the library to the right of it, the existing chiller, it's at the end of its useful life, essentially. We're incurring some maintenance costs now on that unit. If it fails, the AC will be, inoperable, essentially. And temperatures will be, unbearable at the library. So it's certainly something that needs to be addressed before failure. So we're trying to get out ahead of that, knowing, considering the age of that unit.
Okay. Any questions on that? We kind of covered that already, I
Yeah.
guess. All right.
A little bit.
Next item is library repainting. Now, we just did that, 25,000, about what, FY '22? So this is gonna be FY '25. We did 25,000, we had requested and funded a repaint library for 25,000 in FY '22.
I don't think it's FY '22.
I don't
Was
think
it
was
FY
either,
'21?
yeah.
Was it '21? Maybe it was '21.
I believe it was out within the capital plan and
Yeah, that
It
wasn't-
came out,
Do it, as far as I know.
it was requested in FY '22, but it came,
Sure, some of these were requested.
Yeah,
and they
but it
were
wasn't
still-
funded.
wasn't
Right.
funded, yeah.
Well, it was pushed out into the plan, so it's.
Yeah.
still-
When was the last time the library was repainted? You know?
I don't even know offhand, no. Yep, interior painting, yep.
Yeah.
So 20 years.
So I had some pictures, Mike had some pictures that were in the presentation. You can see this cracked, peeling paint in several areas inside.
Okay.
But that's out another couple of years.
So you're looking at, you're still waiting till '25 to do it?
Yeah.
Got it.
If there's some smaller areas that we could, patch ourselves or paint, we'll do that.
It's been a while,
Trying to-
I've
yeah,
been guessing.
we're trying to spread things out, and this is a smaller dollar project, so
Sure.
could it get reprioritized and bumped up? Sure. What we're not seeing in this plan and what will be presented before you, by Justin, is the school building-related, facility projects. So, where do those get programmed over the next 6 years, and how does that? So
Yeah,
we're trying to spread
They're
our
gonna be sizable.
exactly. With siding work at the two schools,
Siding work's
Chafee and
gonna,
Barton.
is increased, I think he's
Yep.
looking at $500,000. and-
So that's why some of these, when you're looking at it just through the traditional, will say, town side buildings, why kick the $25,000 project out a couple of years? But it's considering that for '23 and '24, with some of these really large projects coming down the pike, things get shifted out a little
Well,
bit, so.
Barton Street and Chafee, that siding issue needs to be addressed because of
Exactly.
the
And roofs.
moisture issues that it's causing in the interior, right, Mike?
That's
We
right.
visited that in
Saw that,
August.
Yeah.
We saw that firsthand, so, yeah.
And
Serious.
roofs and leaky roofs, so when you have,
Yeah.
the building envelope and the roof systems are failing, those take precedent, right, so.
Yeah,
So can I ask, and I apologize for interrupting and being very late, so
It's all right.
thank you for your patience. I'm just wondering, coming in a little bit late, the 25, did we already discuss the amount or the allocation? It just seems a little high, but maybe I'm not understanding what needs to be done.
what,
for
the whole,
work there.
repaint the whole interior of the whole
Oh,
library?
it is the whole interior?
Interior of the library,
Okay.
yeah.
So both floors then, or all 3 floors?
I'm not sure if it included the second floor or not, but it was a good majority of the painting there. We had, like I said, it's been a while since we got the initial estimates on doing the painting, and it was primarily a lot of the real areas that needed it, and Brittany had pointed that out to us, where she saw the major areas that needed it. So I'd have to go back and look. I'm not
Well,
sure
as
if
I
that's-
said before, having bought a gallon of paint that I had to wait months
Right.
for,
Yeah.
paint prices have gone up. It's this petroleum issue and all the stuff. I waited for the base to
Right.
get it tinted. I waited at Nails for 2 months to get it. I picked it up and it used to be $60, it was $84.
Yeah. And you gotta remember too, we're not paying, we're paying prevailing wage for all this work too. So it's not like hiring a
Yeah.
painter to come paint your house.
Yeah.
Those rates are set and they're usually pretty steep, so.
And we're not, and we don't anticipate that any of this work is being done due to, say, water damage or anything underneath. It's basically just to freshen everything up.
I think we could say there might be some water damage that's contributed to some, the moisture behind the paint that's made it pop in some areas essentially, or peeled. I think that's fair to say. We've, addressed a lot of those issues, and you'll hear about project later on tonight, right? The building envelope projects to do further repairs, but what we did on the south elevation, just over the course of last year, was to fix some of those water issues that, were impacting the paint, the floors, and various other aspects or areas of the library. So it could be, and we've got the simulated veneer on that south face too, on the addition. There's a pretty evident crack there, and we are getting water infiltration there, and so we can't say for sure, but I wouldn't doubt that might have some issues. The moisture may be causing some of those issues.
So the $25,000 estimate or request is that basically, what was the thought then, that we need to repaint because it needs freshening up? Just like in your house, after a while you walk in and you say, you know what, this living room looks horrible, and you paint it the same color just because it needs to be freshened up. Is that what's being done with this $25,000? And if we run into problems with water or anything like that, is that gonna cost us more? I'm just saying, is this gonna cover, I know you can't see you don't have a crystal ball, but is there a little bit of a contingency built into here if you run into some problems? I guess.
There always is. We tend to round up a little bit, right, with the quotes that we get. We build in a little bit of contingency. Where we'd be doing this painting, like I said, we've addressed the building envelope issue on that south side and the front there. We know that we've taken a big step forward in addressing some of the water issues that building has. So we'd feel confident going into those areas and being able to paint that there's not going to be a moisture issue, right? But like you said, we won't really know until we get into it. We start peeling things back a little. Hopefully we don't see any evidence of mold or anything like that, surface mold. But right now we don't. I mean, from what we can tell looking inside the building, right, there's some cracked areas, peeling areas, but it's more of a freshening up I would say, that
You've already addressed and contained the mold issue downstairs. I think you've already worked on getting that under control.
we are in the midst of doing that. So we've bid that project out twice and have not received favorable bids on that. We're actually now seeking a emergency bid waiver to just hire somebody to be able to do that work. So we have the money to do it, and we've been trying to package it because of the dollar amount. We need to go out for sealed bids, and we've not really gotten much traction on it, not much interest. So now we're seeking a waiver because we have an issue that we need to get in control there, right?
Yes.
And so we can do that. We can expedite that work.
So you're seeking a waiver.
Yep.
Mold and asbestos remediation seems to be
Yeah.
a problem in getting favorable bidding.
Yeah.
We even tried, I had the insurance company come in and take a look to see if I could get anything covered under insurance. And they did cover a small amount. I believe they've authorized the town for about $10,000. After our deductible, we'll end up with about a $5,000 check.
Yeah, because you're deductible.
Right, and that was for only, they'll cover where just water damage was. They won't cover for high humidity or any of the problems with the air conditioning and ventilation system. So we are getting $5,000 from the insurance company. The town manager just signed off on that today with the insurance company.
Okay.
And I have a contractor coming in this Friday to look at the remediation to get rid of the mold.
Good. Good. All right. Any other questions on that item? Committee? All right. Next item.
The next item here is senior center roof and gutter replacement, estimated at $100,000. This is slated for FY '26. It's to replace approximately a 5,000 square foot roof, along with the gutters located just out back here, 323 Main Street. The existing roof is nearly 27 years old, or approximately 27 years old, and we're seeing evidence of leaks now. There's some stained ceiling tiles inside the building. I had some pictures, and Mike had some pictures that we would like to show you, with some cracked shingles, several cracked shingles on the roof. There's shingles with nail heads that are evident. So it's certainly showing its age, and a new roof is really required to prolong the life of the building at this point and reduce maintenance costs. We actually just recently did some patchings over, I think over there, in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
We had done some patching work over there, so.
So this is not for patching, this is for a new roof?
Yes, that's right.
And do we know what kind of roof, or is it
We're-
going to be an upgrade? Are we going metal, or?
No, it wouldn't be
replacing?
metal. I think they're planning just similar to what we have, but I'm sure a higher grade shingle, you know, the newer ones. They're a little
Tab
more-
30 year, yeah.
30,
Yeah.
40 years, yeah, the asphalt.
Do you know if they'll remove the existing shingle first before they put it down, or are they gonna go over top?
I don't know. It depends on how many layers are already there. You know, there's a limit how many you can go.
Yeah, two, usually one, because of the weight.
Yeah.
And then this, and being New England, the snow burden on top of that,
Yeah.
then you're pushing it,
I'd anticipate removing and
yeah.
replacing.
Okay.
That'd be the
So this
preference.
cost is sufficient to cover that? It just seems,
Well, you're talking $20 a square foot,
Yeah, it's a 5,000, I mean, you think of what it would cost for, say, a residential house, and again, we are paying prevailing wage, it's a public works project, but $100,000 is, for that size roof, we think is sufficient.
oh yeah, I think so. Even at the cost of, again, petroleum-based shingles, tar, and everything's going up, and if it's oil-based, it's gonna be more. And we're talking FY '26,
That's right.
so we've got a few years to deal with inflationary issues.
opportunities for green solutions there? I know they have some green roofing solutions these days. Is that something we considered?
What are you thinking specifically, like a vegetated roof or something like that? Or I know, no, I know that those are, some options out there, but
Just wondering,
not something
looking
we
at the
considered
time
off,
plan.
yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly open to those sort of solutions. They typically, typically cost more, unfortunately.
Right,
but
right.
There's a trade-off, but.
All right. Any other questions on the roof? We'll move on to the next one.
Okay, the next project is the building envelope repairs on the library. So this is a multi-phase project. I think the forms then that you have, the detail forms, may show it as a three-phase project. That was also edited. And
I showed us two-phase, but you're.
you have, well, those two phases on this plan through 28, through FY '28. A third phase would have been in FY '29, so I don't know if it shows 3 phases up top where it says phase 1 of.
1 of 3.
Yeah, so it's actually,
Yeah.
we're anticipating two phases. We did change that. We had
2 or
some-
3?
2 phases total.
Okay.
And what we're looking at is the simulated brick veneer that we had spoke of earlier on the addition on the library. So this is the south elevation. What looks to be brick, that's what that is. That's a simulated veneer that basically they've made to look like a stucco almost, that they made to look like brick. And that's failing. It's cracked in several areas. There's cracks running down below the windows, and there's one significant crack running vertically on the right side of that wall, and you can see water staining, and we're seeing water infiltration inside the building, even down in the basement. So
There's
we,
your mold issue.
yes,
one of it
exactly,
contributing.
one area. So this project, in talking with an architect that we've done work, and actually had done work on the other area of the library, had worked up a order of magnitude cost estimate, and it's to replace that simulated brick, actually tear that out and replace it with real brick.
Yo.
Similar scope to, although the project that we completed last year was brick and was replaced with brick, it'll be similar scope in the sense that we may need tiebacks to tie that veneer to the structural framing of the
Frame
library.
Of the wall. right.
Yeah, of the wall, so it's not just floating there, and again, that hopefully enhance the aesthetics of the library as well. It'll be actual true brick, we'd match the brick to the front, and more longevity and weatherproofing that we'll get out of that solution. So that's phase 1, and then phase 2 is actually on the north elevation, on the historic portion of the library. Is the existing brick there is actually now, we're seeing signs of cracking and deterioration there, similar to what we had seen on that south elevation. And when we were doing that project, the architect actually brought this to our attention, said, listen, at some point, you're gonna need to program in repairs. The rest of the building, we're seeing these signs of deterioration with that brick. So those areas being the worst, that's what we've identified in these 2 phases. So this would be to do either some repointing of the brick that is there. If we can't salvage it, it would actually be to replace the brick and do a similar project to what we've done out here previously. There's contingency in this cost for any structural work that needs to be done. That would include those tiebacks and pumping and grout like we had to do on the first phase, I guess you could call it, just last year. So this project is similar in scope to that, and we've programmed it out for 2 phases from FY '27 to FY '28.
For a total of 800,000.
That's right.
But you think all of this is gonna last that long? I mean, we can wait until then?
Yeah, that's what I'm sitting here thinking when you're talking about water already going in downstairs and we're fighting mold and
Yep.
all these other things. I'm wondering.
It's, we can do some patching, we could do something to get us by if we need to, specifically to the simulated brick in the worst areas.
Okay.
It's not ideal, it's not a long-term solution, but it may be enough, we think it's enough to get us
To
this
stop the
point.
water from,
We understand this is a bigger ask, a bigger request too. When you have other projects like the school siding replacements at $400,000 a whack, at Chafee and Barton. So in earlier years, FY '23, '24. So we're trying to again spread these asks out,
Spread the pain.
but still being cognizant of what the need is and what the priority is, right?
right.
So
So it just, well, what you're doing is making sure that we're aware that it's not gonna be a surprise. You're forecasting what we already are aware of.
Yeah,
Not to
because-
say there are things out there that we're not aware of, and there are, I'm sure, but these are things that need to be on the radar. And then how we can address them. Do we do it through the levy? Can we get some grant money? It being a historical building.
It may
I
be,
mean,
yeah.
like we were successful. And now's the time to start working on it, because sometimes it's 2 or 3 tries before you get the money. But if we can get the grant money, last year when, I think capital request, I was looking at what we did last year, I think we did $1.7 million in free cash. We borrowed some money, what was it?
685.
Let's see here. $1.7 million in free cash. The tax levy for the roads was $500,000. We got grant money of $219,628, and we borrowed short-term for the fire truck $685,000. So we came up with in those components, 3,104,000. But we had a request for 5,919,000. So but knowing these things, and with you and the town manager, you've been successful, maybe there will be some grant money, not 100%, maybe 50, maybe 30. Anything is better than nothing, but knowing it, I'm just, the building, the original building is very old, obviously, but the addition is not that old.
2001.
2001.
When this was put on.
Yeah,
Other side of the building.
one side of the building, yeah.
This is the south and the west?
This is the south, so the south elevation, but on the addition portion. So we had done work on the front, the historic portion. This is to the left of that, if you're looking at that elevation, and then the north elevation. So on the historic side and to the north, actually right behind the library chiller. So we had a nice picture of the chiller, and we had a picture of that facade there, where you could see the brick deterioration and the age of that chiller. But obviously we don't have that here. But it's those two elevations.
Now, this product that was used on the addition, the simulated brick, is it at its life expectancy? I mean, has it performed as well as it should have for the amount of time it's been up there? Or is this a case of, again, some cutting corners, and now we're paying for it?
I can't speak to, with the oversight or,
Right.
what
But,
what
I mean,
product
this
even
product,
was
did
submitted
this
on.
I guess, did this product live up to its expectations? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, if the age of the addition, if it's decades old at this point, I would say the design life is probably measured in 2 or 3 decades, if I had, just an assumption,
Well, it'd be
just speculating, but
2001, this is 2021, so
Yeah,
it's 20
that's what I'm
years.
saying, 20 to 30 years maybe, so it's showing its age, maybe it's ahead of schedule in terms of showing its age, but
It's in
not
that
sure that
ballpark?
we could have done anything different to preserve it, I guess, is what
So
I'm.
it sounds almost like a stucco, right?
It's almost like a stucco, yeah.
But there's a foam backing to it, isn't there not? They some kind of almost looks like a part.
We'd have to pull the
foam
detail,
back,
yeah.
Foam board of about 2 inches.
We
and then
could
they-
pull the-
They put metal on that or like stucco.
Lath,
You
yeah.
lath on it and then they stucco it.
Yeah, and what it looks like, what the architect said, what it looks like is, first they'll put a layer of almost like a cement color. And then they put the brick color, and then they carve
Cover
into
it
it.
up, right.
Carve
But
it
that's
into
all
the
on
shape of the brick.
That's all on the back of a lathe and the foam that's
I'm not
mounted
sure.
onto the interior or the exterior wall, the actual structure. And I know, having had some experience with that in some of the buildings that I was involved with, that we had some failure early on, and there was a lawsuit and a lot of issues with how it was done. It had to be done at a controlled temperature. You didn't want to do it in the dead of winter where there was tenting involved and you had to have propane heaters because it didn't gel or materialize it, which it should have. It didn't adhere correctly. And we had a couple of our buildings that we had to redo over, that we had the simulated product on, and then we got away from it. But I just happened to know that, and there were some lawsuits involved. But it failed early. I mean, within the first 3 to 5 years. It didn't last 20.
Out of curiosity, do we know what the structural integrity is like underneath that facing? Or is it
We've
gonna be a
not done any
disaster?
structural analysis. We didn't, the original scope on the project we had done last year was not as involved, right? Until we started peeling back the walls, and unfortunately, that's when you find those things. So
That's when you found the water infiltration and the rot.
water, and essentially, Mike, you might speak to this more. You were here during the inception of that project, and when we uncovered those issues. But that brick facade was essentially floating there. It wasn't really tied back to the structural framing. So that's why those tiebacks went in. The grouting was to actually give that wall structural integrity. So it was the water infiltration, but it was also a structural concern that wall could literally just.
Heave over. That's when you lay in brick, you always have tiebacks every other row, you have a tieback.
Right, and what they were tying back into
Wasn't sound.
wasn't healthy. The bricks looked like they were odd sizes. There's like an inner wall between the inside wall of the building and the outside wall of the building, and those inner bricks looked like they were just sitting in place in many areas. The grout had either deteriorated, or they just didn't put it in, and they weren't even level. It was like you just had people laying in brick. It was a mess, and that's when the contractor pulled right away, said, we have to stop, there could be a failure. And then we got a structural engineer involved, you know, the architect did, brought in a structural engineer, and we had to beef it up. So we're not sure if the same thing's gonna happen on the other side, when we open that up.
Well, at least you're taking some, you're trying to mitigate as best you can early on some of the stuff that's already, so that otherwise we're gonna be like a dog chasing our tail with the mold issue. If we don't address the water infiltration. I mean, we're doing everything with the air conditioning, but there's no air conditioning unit. If you got water coming in, there's no way you're gonna mitigate that, so.
Now, that's why, in the basement was a combination of water coming in, combination of problems with the air conditioning systems. We added ventilation, so it was a multiple problems that caused that. Wasn't just one.
Oh, boy. All right, any other thoughts, comments? That pretty much covers the town side of facilities. We're gonna stay tuned for school.
Yep.
I'm all set?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, Mike's off the hook.
If no one has any questions for me,
Thank you,
I'll
Mike.
leave.
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
Okay, thank you very
Good
much.
seeing you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
So I'd like
See
to
you
do
with the
then
school?
is,
You'll be back?
Probably. I'm
Okay,
sure Justin will-
all right, yeah.
so I'd like to just switch gears and maybe go a little out of order here. Our Recreation Committee, Commission Chairman rather, Joel Maisley sits behind me. I know he's gonna get to a commission meeting, so I'd like to skip ahead to Parks and Cemetery
Sure,
if we may.
sure.
And just a few projects here, all pertinent to Rule Field. Oh, thank you, Joel.
Good evening.
Evening.
And just jumping right in, the first project that we have, that you have before you and we're requesting is for irrigation, additional irrigation at Rule Field. So this is for underground irrigation. It's good for turf management, right? Beneficial to good turf management and drought harms. I know the thought of drought after the summer that we had, you know, we're thinking who needs irrigation, but that's not always gonna be the case.
Year before we did.
Exactly, so harms the grass, it hardens the playing surface. So this would reduce operating budget impacts in the way of, you know, chemical treatments, in the like that we need to bring this grass back. So right now, and I think Joel, we were talking about this earlier, right now we have those fields in a really good state, and they'll stay that way with proper treatment, but also proper watering. So it costs less, right, to maintain rather than do a full overhaul. So that's the benefit in what we're proposing here with irrigation.
Now, we already, at town meeting,
Yep.
we gave you 45,000
That's right.
and change to start the irrigation.
Yep. Yeah, we're still working through that, but in talks with we brought out actually our irrigation vendor who we have under contract that maintains basically our systems at the school, to give us an order of magnitude cost, or to basically tell us what we could accomplish with that money. So it looks like, you know, that's enough to get about a third of the fields done over there, essentially.
How many fields do we have? We have multiple fields. I know.
Multiple ball fields, soccer fields, practice area, practice fields, right, Joel? So
Yeah.
Practice
Yep.
fields for what?
there was a practice
Football.
area for the football team that had gone in at some
Yeah.
point, a few years back, right?
Yep.
That's been,
Yeah, the soccer fields, there's two major areas, and we have 3 softball fields. The newest was Field 3 that we built because the girls softball team really didn't have a field. It was kind of a makeshift. And just to talk about a little bit about the water, you know, we put a lot of money into fertilizer. There's 4 different sections of fertilizer that goes on. And as you said, last year, we had almost 6 to 7 weeks of no rain. And there was an issue that came up this spring. The grass was destroyed in the softball fields, especially Field 2. We took it offline to reseed it this fall, and with the weather, it looks beautiful again. But it's like, you know, we put a lot of money into maintaining it, you know, they're doing a great job taking care of it. But when you have those incidents of not rain for a few months, it really does a lot of damage, and we start from, you know, ground zero again. So we're putting money into things constantly. So if we can, you know, we were looking at trying to maintain specific areas, at least begin the process. The 45,000 that you were talking about basically is gonna be the infrastructure. The water's there, but we're gonna need zone valves and wires and things like that. So that's kind of a chunk of that that's gonna be taking into setting the controllers in the building that's already there, but running to the main lines that are already there. We have a brand-new 2-inch water line, and then we have the old existing water line. So we have two different lines that we can access.
So this is just gonna irrigate water. You're not gonna be able, or is it a system that allows you to also introduce any kind of
Reuse or,
fertilizer or anything?
Oh.
None of that's,
I would,
no.
well, I can't
I
speak
know
to
there are
that.
systems out there, that's why I asked. I'm
Yeah.
actually looking at one right now, as a matter of
Okay.
fact.
I
But
think our initial conversations with our vendor, we were just talking water.
Water.
But that, again, that's not
But
something we
I
can
know there's
revisit.
systems out there that would allow you to introduce liquid lime
Mm-hmm.
and liquid fertilizer into the systems. There's a back check valve, so that
Yep.
it doesn't come back, but I'm looking at one right now for the R lawn. We just, and I don't know what the history is, but specifically. I do know we've lost fields over the last 10 years repeatedly because of weather, and volunteers like yourselves have gone there weekends and week out, putting your own time in to reclaim those fields again. But the loss of the use of the field also has got to be a factor. So obviously you're fixing it and you're volunteering your time, but the people that want to use the fields can't. And so it's like a dog chasing its tail again. And I know that's an issue, but,
and I can say that, the people have put time into it, and they've been really good about, we've switched fields. Positioning, like even, for instance, the soccer people, they do not practice on the playing fields. We have certain fields set up for different size and age groups. They don't practice on those fields. They practice on the outsides, and they only play their games on the fields, and then each season, we shift the fields around. So it's really made a lot of difference, and between, the maintenance that they're doing on them and the people working together to make that happen, it's really been quite an improvement up there.
good. It's like rotating your crops. You kind of rotate
Yeah.
so you don't beat the ground to death, so to speak. But
And one
I know
more-
grass seed, that's the other thing. I lost my lawn, not this year, last year because of the drought. And it cost me almost $6,000 with dirt and seed. And I was surprised, 50 pounds of the correct seed is $200 for 50 pounds. So there's, it's great that you have volunteer labor to do that, but the cost, I didn't have the volunteers. It was,
Because they do have a special turf mix that they
Yes.
do use at the field, and it is
Yes.
expensive, but it's.
It's very
It
expensive.
takes a pounding, takes full sun.
Yeah.
But it looks beautiful, and
Yeah.
and it is expensive.
I
And-
was surprised how expensive, but yeah.
And one more component too is like, if this system does go in, we were looking at a rain guard. Basically, if we can set it for certain inches, so if we do get rain, it will not turn on. So we wouldn't be just
out.
inadvertently watering, so that we'd save money through
You're
that way.
conserving water, right?
How long does a system like this last?
I mean, it's all plastic piping, and it's all about maintenance
Yeah.
too, so,
I mean,
as well as you maintain it,
yeah,
but.
If a head cracks or, the lines should be good. I mean, they're pretty thick,
You can replace the heads of a lawnmower, somebody trips over it or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, it's an easy
Yeah.
fix. It wouldn't be a lot of maintenance, and the controllers, they're pretty sophisticated now. Unless there was,
Digital.
a lightning hit or something like that, they last for quite a few years.
Now, who uses is it exclusively town organizations that use these fields? Or are there situations where you may have an outside group that would come in to use them for, say, playoffs or something like that? And if there is, do we charge something for that?
Yes, mostly it's used by the leagues,
Town leagues?
town leagues. There's various leagues that do play, and it goes anywhere from like a Jack Benny League softball, all the way to Oxford Youth Soccer. The smaller divisions play behind Joslin, and the rest go to Roof Field. We have donated the field for Special Olympics, and there's what's called the Gaffney Cup. It's state playoffs, and it was put together by the president of Mays that Division I, Division II plays state playoffs, and the lower end, which is Division III, which are lower skill children, never got to be in a playoff. So the Central Mass section said, they put together a program that these kids can come up, they play a half a game against each other, they get a medal, and we used to cook hot dogs, give them a bag of chips and a drink, and had like a spree day for them. So that, we kind of donated the time for that. Other than that, if people use it, we just had somebody take the Joslin Fields for a birthday party for 2 hours. So there's a minimal charge for the people from town, but if it's somebody that's making money, we do charge an hourly, and then we charge a percentage of revenue that they make.
Good. And you have your facilities there. You have bathrooms where we just
Yep.
put it in not too long ago.
Right, there's bathrooms there now, and even there's a concession stand that has everything in place to go. So we're looking at that also, that hopefully as we build and continue, then we can expand it and we can offer.
And now you're gonna be putting in the disc in the back, wasn't it?
Yep, yeah, we get some
Frisbee or
line
whatever
grant money for the, I guess
Disc.
the pine knoll, you could call it,
Like
out
20,000.
16,000, yep.
For
So
19 holes,
We'll
right?
do, no, it's actually
9 and then
10 right
what?
now with
10,
room
right.
for expansion, and, so you'll have a practice hole and then 9 holes, 9 playing, holes,
With
and,
room to expand to 18.
with room to expand back there, so we'll do some layout, actually before the winter, we'll lay everything out, and then in the spring, we'll hit the ground
So
running.
we're expanding the utilization of the fields and the facilities, along with now that we have the bathrooms and we have the concession stand, that makes sense.
Yep.
Now I'm waiting on my bocce ball and horseshoe courts for the seniors like myself.
Yeah.
So that we
Yeah.
can watch the grandchildren play, but we can also throw some horseshoes or
That's a
bocce
good
ball.
idea, good suggestion. Yeah.
So this would go under, going forward, it's going to Parks and Rec to, Parks and Cemetery to drain every winter and maintain and everything, because it's
This'll
got to
be-
be
yeah.
drained out, right?
Yep.
Yeah, blow
Exactly.
it out, yeah. Yeah.
Yep, that'll fall on DPW, yep.
Yeah, I'd like to see it, it's beautiful. I mean, the grasses are, when I was there this summer, when we were going over to the school, visiting the schools, looked great. I mean, but like I said, the year before was not, it's pretty bad. But great that you're expanding, and it's a good asset for the community, and it's good to see it's being used. 100,000, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I'm glad you got the 45.
Yeah.
At least you got to start. So that's good. What's the next item we have? Unless
Next
there's any other
project is, we're staying in rural field, security cameras. This would be $20,000 slated for FY '23 to install security cameras throughout rural field, which will integrate with the police. They'll have access to these, basically. We have some cameras now on the concession stand. We have recurring vandalism, for whatever reason, that goes on up there, despite those cameras being there. It is. But just as recent as a couple weeks ago, we had damage to the picnic tables, damage to the siding on the building, some spray paint vandalism, vegetable oil that was spilled all over the concrete slab out there that needed to be cleaned. So police, they investigate it. They're able to at sometimes find the perpetrators, but not always able to hold them responsible, right? So we're hopeful that a robust security system up there throughout the whole facility will prevent these sort of.
It'll pay for itself. Just what you just cited that happened recently.
Yep.
That 20,000, with your time being money and labor.
Yeah, that was, it was over $1,000 in damages, easy. But this happens pretty frequently, unfortunately. So, the idea would be to quell any of, further vandalism up there.
Do you have an estimate for how much over the,
I don't offhand. It's something I could easily get you. Officer Picard he's usually working hand in hand with us he investigates it. He calls us when we have these reports of vandalism. He asks us to work up cost estimates using our labor. What will it cost? Labor, DPW labor, materials, to fix these. So we've done it quite a few times over the past year. And it's always, several $100s each time. But this has been going on for, several years, right? So it adds up. It adds up over
And
time.
we put cameras other places within the community.
Yes.
Recently.
Yep.
Up at the high school and
Mm-hmm.
different areas. So this would be, okay.
There's actually a system in place, like Jared had said, that it's
Yeah.
basically looking at the building and take care of the building.
Mm-hmm.
What we want to do is expand it so that we could get more visualization and then actually look at the perpetrators that are causing these issues. And it seems like we go through cycles. It'll be good for a little while, and now we've got another generation in the area that is, whether it's tearing the fields up with their bikes, ripping fences, They were tipping over porta potties, trying to catch them on fire. So we're in that mode again, but at least, you know, if the police had a visual and we could identify the people, then they can move forward with prosecution. It happened out back here with the skate park. They had spray painted at one point, and because there was a camera on the building, the OCC, we were able to see who did it. They took 4 kids, actually, to court, and they had to pay for the damages. So it's more of a follow-up and actually holding people accountable, but we need that piece to actually identify the people that are causing the issues.
Now, is there anything, any type of insurance that would cover or partially cover this? And especially given that we are enhancing the security cameras and stuff, is there anything that is out there that we can get that is cost efficient, you know, to pay for premiums and stuff, that might behoove us to look into, or does it exist even? I don't know.
To fund the installation, or you're
No,
saying just to
fund-
cover the repairs?
If you have vandalism,
Yeah.
you know?
I'd say typically what happens is, because, you know, you're looking at kids that are typically doing this, right? The officers, if they're able to identify them, they end up reaching out to the parents, they ask us, we develop a cost estimate for what we think the repairs, what it'll cost, and then it's on the police or DPW to try to collect a check essentially from the parents, you know, for that amount. That's typically what has happened. So it's taking it, you know, it's an administrative burden as well to do that. That's typically how these things go. Whether insurance doesn't typically get involved, I don't know that that would be covered, but we can certainly look into that. I don't know offhand.
And I think a comment too, that, you know, if we don't hold individuals accountable, it's gonna get worse, to me. And then secondly, I think the insurance companies, once you have so many claims, we're gonna end up paying for it in the long run.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they get you one way or the other.
Way or the other, that's right.
But Joel made a good point too. It's not just to the facility, you know, the bathroom facility, concession stand. There's been instances too of the practice football play, I mean, dirt bikes, tearing up the fields. There's been several different instances of vandalism, so.
Well, that's money, I think, well spent because if we ignore it, it's gonna get worse, not better.
Do we know what it looks like? You mentioned there were some other areas where we just recently installed cameras. Have we seen
Yeah,
any
Jared,
data collected around reduced vandalism?
the schools and
increased crime?
the,
Carbuncle, yeah, we've not had too
Carbuncle,
many instances.
the bathhouse.
I don't recall many calls actually of vandalism. So I think just
Greenbrier,
not only
yeah.
holding people accountable, but the more you see cameras around, the more of a deterrent
just
it
did
is.
the bathrooms up at Greenbrier, not that long ago. Haven't we?
No,
Have we done them yet?
appropriated money for 'em.
We
haven't.
donated money for them, we haven't done them yet?
We're looking at adding some up at the dog park as well. I'm seeking some grant monies to do that.
Well, we had the money
In
for
other
the
areas-
baths. I remember the Army Corps of Engineers requested that we do that. if we were
Yes,
gonna
that
use it.
project's still in the queue as well. I've got actually a vendor, actually just met this week with them to draft a proposal.
And
for
I'm
a-
sure we're gonna need cameras there.
at some
You're not
point.
gonna build something and not ensure that it's, but where else did we put Carbuncle?
Carbuncle,
Beach house?
Yep, on the splash pad and on the building itself.
It's on the
so,
building
yeah.
itself, we just did, yeah. And I know the schools already have cameras, they've already meshed in with the police.
Yeah, Justin Legit could
Justin,
probably speak to
on the
that more than
buildings, yeah.
myself, but yeah.
And I think the exterior where the areas are, the grass areas for the play fields. All right,
I mean, for me, I think it would be interesting to be able to see some of that data that you talked about, just
Sure.
to see the reduction in cost and some of that information, I think would be helpful.
all right, 20,000. Any other comments, thoughts on that request? Okay. Next item. 340,000.
Rule field paving, so this is again a resubmission that many of you may be already aware of. But resubmitting a project here to do some paving up at Rule Field, including parking areas and the courts that are there now that are severely cracked and, well, severely cracked. There's actually very large cracks there that are more than a couple inches. I'm sure Joel can speak to those. So it maybe the idea would be to repurpose the two basketball courts into a street hockey court, or to do something else for an additional draw or attraction up at Rule Field. And then basically bringing the facility as a whole, into the 21st century in the sense that we have a nice paved, you see the improvement that, I don't know if anyone has seen Carbuncle parking lot, and what that has done for that site, though, is sort of the finishing touch there to sort of revitalize that area. So that's the sort of enhancement that we would be looking to do with the parking up there as well.
How many courts do we have up there?
There's two.
So one basketball and what we're proposing is one basketball and one straight hockey courts. And what do we have at Greenbrier? We have what?
There's tennis courts.
And a basketball? Volleyball?
Yep, and then beach volleyball, yep.
And then the,
And
then
then
the
don't we
skate
have a
park, yep.
basketball too, somewhere in there?
Not at Greenbrier. No, there's
Then-
courts, there's courts up at
It's up at
the
Johnson
Little League Field, up by the dog
Trails.
park, yep.
Yeah,
And then there's courts behind OCC.
OCC, okay.
now, part of this request, the last sentence says it could be a revenue generator for the town. So does this mean that, kind of going back to my other question, would we be seeking to bring in various types of playoffs or something like that? Like even the district, I don't know if they call them district playoffs anymore, but anyway, you know where I'm going.
Yep.
It was a long time ago. The different playoffs that they have, like right around now, I mean, if they haven't finished them, for the various high school sports and things like that. Is that what we might be looking at? And if we do, is that where we would generate revenue, something like that?
Districts would be tough because they utilize the school systems, and a lot of them get to the point where they use turf fields, so that's what they're kind of looking at that. For us, for instance, antique car shows, they're kind of like, putting that on. People don't want to drive on grass fields with these cars. They're really, a lot of them are fanatics, and, even you can't touch them, and you drive on dirt, or to have a car go by and have dust. It's just having things that would be in a better area, like Jared had said. We can probably do it at Carbuncle, but it's a limited space. I think we were also looking at if the potential for the road work. Do we want to mention any of that would be kind of a test area?
It
goes
could
through,
be. It could very well be where, if we start renting equipment and, to get DPW forces paving some streets, with our own labor, can we knock off some of this paving up at Rule Field ourselves as sort of a test ground, a testing ground for
You
that?
did it over here at the cemetery this summer, right? Didn't you do that?
We didn't do that. It was contracted labor,
What
though.
about the egress from the high school to the police station?
Same thing. We did the prep work, though. We built that road basically, from the drainage piping up with
And
all the
you did all
fill
the
and
base.
prepped everything, rough graded it, and then brought in a paving company to do that. Just, it's more cost efficient to do that, quite frankly, and quicker, when they were also doing paving work in the North Cemetery as well. So that's why we did that.
But you're planning on taking this on, and you think it'll be more cost efficient for you to do it? What do you?
I think, we've looked into this in the past, and this was something that I know was tossed around before I'd come back, right? To use our own equipment and to potentially rent our
Rent
own
the
trucks,
equipment.
rather, right? We've got a 10-wheel dump truck that we have on order and hope to get, hopefully by, in the new year it's looking, but to help haul asphalt if we choose to rent, a paver to do that work. So, it's not the sole purpose of purchasing that truck, obviously, right? But if we have it, we might as well try to use it. And if that gets us more coverage on an annual basis, if we can maybe do a mile of road or so on our own.
There's only, 32 of you in the department, right?
Yeah, and the highway crew is much less than that. It's only a
Right.
few people, right? But You know, the lines are blurred too, if we needed to pull in
Yeah.
people from other divisions to help for a paving job, but it's something to think about, you know? Other towns do it, Webster does it, they do a couple miles a year on their own. So there's certainly precedent for towns doing that type of work. But I think as far as, you know, revenue generator, just as a general statement, you know, Rule Field, you're seeing these capital requests for Rule Field, it's really, you know, referred here as a bright spot in the community, and if we can further enhance that, it just may make it more attractive to more leagues, and that's what Joel, the Recreation Commission do, they handle programming and scheduling for the fields. But if we have an attractive venue up there with state-of-the-art facilities, you're seeing security camera requests, the lighting, the paving, you know, then sky's the limit.
Yeah, it would be nice to see how much revenue it's generated previously. Maybe we have those figures somewhere. I don't know.
I think the
Something
only
we-
thing, what we did have at one point was, we actually had a premier soccer club that was practicing and playing games on the fields
Right.
at one point. So that's the potential, is if we have to maintain the fields to a certain level. And we actually lost that because when we did the fields over, if you remember, we had the snowstorm come in October. And the contractor never got the fields done on time. And then we had a weed problem, the fields didn't come in right, so we lost that person. You know, and we were starting to try to build off of that and bring that in, but there's so many different leagues now and different divisions for different sports for the high schools now, that could be a potential, that this could be a home field for somebody, you know, down the road. So there is a potential, but again, talking that, you know, we've got to have a couple more pieces in place to really make it shine, to get people interested in it.
Do we
Yeah.
have comparisons from other communities that have similar outfits? I'm just curious if there's an
I'm not
estimate
aware,
that
I
we
mean,
could.
I'm sure there are, not aware of what,
On our size town, it's kind of difficult. I'm just trying to think of what's around us. I mean, Auburn's not, they're a unique situation, but I think the other towns around don't have probably as much infrastructure as we have and
Land.
areas to
Yeah.
play.
open space.
I mean, if you look, you know, the baseball people worked really diligently, a lot of volunteers. They had the state playoffs down in Greenbrier again. So, you know, there's the state seeing it. There was a movie done at Stanley Johnson. So there are areas that are being used, and we do have some really nice areas that, you know, I think with a little bit of buffing up, that, you know, we could probably attract business to come and use the fields.
Yeah, I mean, if we finished the irrigation, did some of these other things, then they could come to rely on it on an annual basis, so it's not a one on,
Right.
one on.
Yep.
Then you could probably attract leagues being their home, besides doing some hosting for some
Yeah.
annual playoffs or whatever the sport is. But it's a nice asset to have. We have the land, the opportunity being the 1713 area community, for that every other town was part of us going
Right.
back historically.
Yeah.
So not every town has that
Right.
available to them, so how we maintain it. But it'd be
then
interesting to see if there's what other towns are doing.
Yeah, I
don't
guess
know.
that's what I was thinking too.
All right, what do we got next on this, if there's no other?
The final Parks and Cemetery project is, again, at Rule Field, and it's another resubmission that you may be familiar with, is to replace the lighting at Rule Field. So the existing lighting, and we had a nice picture of that too to demonstrate, you know, the age of the poles and the lights themselves date back to around the 1970s. So certainly at the end of their useful life. And new modern lighting is, again, would bring that facility into the modern age, essentially, and hopefully be a real attraction to those fields, you know, for play at night and, you know, to several leagues. So I know that that's something that with the softball leagues, it happens quite frequently, right? Joel, where they have night games there, and we've had issues with the lights, they're not working, right? So, again, Mr. Yule, you spoke to that, they need to be relied upon, this facility needs to be relied upon, so. Estimated cost, this is slated for fiscal year 2025, it's $300,000.
Now, do you think that, along the lines of when we replaced all of the streetlights, there was rebate money from,
Green Initiative.
Mass Electric.
The Green
and all
Initiative,
that stuff.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Green
Do you
Initiative and
think-
Mass
I
Electric.
mean, or maybe you've already thought of looking into any, if we replace this, if there's any kind of a rebate or something like that that we
Sure.
might be eligible for. Usually if you're upgrading to something like that, there might be something out there.
Yeah, we'll certainly look into any incentives. I don't know of any offhand. I'm sure they're out there. You know, that particular instance was,
Yeah, National Grid, I think there's probably some there. Well, that's like we did with the streets, and I think the town manager has that 5-year multiple grant green community.
Communities program,
And this
yep,
was one
yep.
of the items on that. She's been sprinkling the money over the 5 years, trying to get, she just did the schools with the LED lights.
Yep.
And I think this was on her radar to be entertained either this coming year or next. So this may be, and that with National Grid, like we did, like Joan mentioned, with the streetlights, this may be an item that we don't have to physically, financially entertain. Hopefully, or a small dollar amount, if any, of that, because of the Green Community Initiative and National Grid. Anytime you can reduce energy costs, you know, reduce our carbon footprint,
Right.
there's money out there.
If there weren't, we probably would still realize some savings
Yeah.
using these lights
yeah.
than to
Yeah.
what's there, and it would be more efficient. Okay.
It's a win-win, basically. We
Yeah.
reduce our operating costs and we reduce our carbon footprint, and we get the money to move forward with it so that it's done.
Yeah.
That's one item that I think there's an opportunity there to
Maybe.
get money, or a good part of it, anyway. I think we talked about it. I remember seeing it somewhere in a lot of the papers with the Green Initiative that was on, Real Field was mentioned, going back
Yeah,
back
because
a year
even,
or so.
I think servicing the older lights too, it's hard to even get the components for these lights, and they do use a lot of wattage. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's getting to the point where, I know we fixed them up and put the safety things that we needed to do on them last round, but, you know, trying to get parts for them now is really difficult, so we're gonna start running into that problem where
yeah.
we can't repair them, and there are some that are out, so.
the poles themselves too. I mean, I would say majority of the lights up there are out of plumb. I mean, those poles are like this. They don't even look like the utility poles that you're accustomed to seeing. It looks like a tree with, you can actually see the knots in some of the, some of the poles. So, yeah, they're certainly overdue for replacement, but.
Is that going to prevent, or delaying this project, going to prevent the enhanced use of the fields that we've been projecting on the other projects?
Most of probably the programs would be on the fields, and I would say that it would probably be more soccer orientated at this point. But, you know, we even entertained lighting a soccer field, because there could be small-sided games. And it could be on all the different age group, because you don't have to have a large soccer field. A lot of the clubs have smaller fields, and you have small-sided teams of, 6 on a field. So, we were thinking of doing the outside of the softball field, under the lights. In the fall, it's, everybody's still playing.
Right.
The weather's been beautiful, so, and these leagues can generate a good amount of money. So, that's something that we looked at too, that's a potential of trying to get that going. And again, it's getting the ball rolling, and once it goes, I'm sure people would love to play outside under the lights as opposed to being in a building.
Well, I know
Oh,
that they
God,
moved some of the soccer games for the youth soccer league, at least in some,
Yeah.
to adjust earlier for the time difference as it started to get darker. So I think they would have liked to play later.
Outside, yeah,
Yeah.
instead of inside, definitely. I mean, I remember growing up, my children playing inside, and the bruises, the contusions, hitting that gym floor.
Boards, yeah.
Yeah, turf would be a better option, no question about it. But, all right, any other thoughts, comments, questions? If none, well, thank you for the presentation.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Joel.
Have a good night.
Think about that soccer, that horseshoe pit and the bocce ball court.
That is, that'd be neat.
Huh?
That'd be neat.
Yeah, for people my age, they can't run that soccer field anymore.
We'll get you in the senior league, come on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so switching gears again, I've got the fleet requests. I suppose we could jump into now.
fleet, all right.
Okay.
Starting off, fiscal year 2023 request for $100,000 is the body replacement, truck numbers 31 and 60, replacing the current bodies with dump spreaders. So I had some nice pictures to show the corrosion that's talked about here, on those bodies that are original to the trucks. These trucks are the ones that are carrying the salt around town, in spreading that on the roads, basically, right? So there's exposure to the salt, in over 10 years' time. They're severely corroded, essentially, those spreader bodies. So what we're trying to do here with this sort of program is if we can replace the bodies of the trucks, when we're hoping to get upwards of 20 years out of the cab and chassis, which is what's been typical, is that the body replacement after 10 years or so, once those bodies age another 10 years, it'll sort of coincide with the end of life, useful life of the cab and chassis itself, right? So then we can part ways. So then we get a whole new truck at that point, basically. So that's the idea, essentially. So this is a resubmission, so now these bodies are, I think, beyond 10 years old, actually. So they've seen some significant wear and tear, and I wish I had the pictures to show the corrosion that they're experiencing, but that's the scope of this project, essentially, is to replace those bodies with dump spreaders.
Is there a better type of body, of aluminum, or is it?
Stainless, yeah, it's a cost consideration then, right? So then if you invest in a stainless, body at this point, then it's gonna far outlast the cab and chassis, so it's,
So you expect the new trucks with stainless bodies?
yes, yeah, the new ones come with with a, usually combo dump spreader, essentially, that's, you may have seen those, you can see them with the
Right.
stainless.
I do see your guys out there with the dumps up and hosing them down, so it's not.
Oh, yeah.
That seems to be an ongoing thing when I drive by.
Absolutely, yep. No, they're expertly maintained, our fleet, hats off to our fleet superintendent, assistant fleet superintendent, all the guys, and girls. They do a great job maintaining the fleet. It's funny, I say to people, how often are you replacing your own vehicle, right? We live in New England. I'd hazard to guess that most people are replacing their personal vehicles inside of 20 years, right? And if you ask them why, they'll say, well, because of the salt in the roads. Well, these are the very trucks that carry that salt and put it down, right? So, and we expect them to last over 20 years. It's just not in the cards, so.
How many miles are on the trucks themselves, in the cab?
I have that. I wish you know what, I don't
But you
have that
go
on me.
by
I
it
can get
and you
that
keep
for
the
you.
hours
Oh, yeah,
of both?
absolutely. Yeah, we have maintenance records, miles, hours on all of our vehicles and equipment. And I can certainly get that in short order. Usually a lot of it's the hours, right? So it might not be, the miles may not be staggering, but it's the hours because of idle times and that sort of thing. And then the equivalent engine miles because of those hours is a much higher number that is staggering. Just a little tidbit, but.
We were fortunate this winter having what I would call a mild winter.
Yeah.
With this rain we've had this summer, if that's any indication of what the winter is gonna look like, ouch.
Huh.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of savings realized in this project, from maybe when it was initially submitted. The fact that we're proposing a body swap. If you read here from truck number 31 will actually receive truck number 34's body once 34's replacement is delivered. So the idea is that we'll send it out to our vendor. They'll swap that body out because it's in good enough shape.
That was
We
part
think-
of that lease purchase deal, 34?
Yes, that's right. So
It
what
came
we've
in
done,
around-
so that's a bit of a change, actually. Instead of buying new, we think we can actually use that body now, get us by to the end of the cab and chassis, the life on that.
So you're gonna
number
take
31.
34's old body and
Yep.
flip it into 31?
Yep, before we part ways with old 34, basically, so. And then 60 will get a new body.
And the new 34 is like a 264,000 you shared with me? And we're gonna lease that over 7 years?
That's right. I just want to make sure the 34,
The new 34?
the new 34 is not the six-wheel, though. There's the six-wheel and the 10-wheel that are
The
part of the lease
10-wheel
purchase.
is the six, no,
Let's see,
that's,
I've got that email here.
I think that's the 10-wheel. 31 is it's gonna be 37, is the 213.
34, that's right. Yep, that's right. Yep,
That's the 10, right?
yep.
78,000
34
pounds.
is- Yep.
Because I said, what vehicles are replacing? That's why I was confused, because now
Yep,
you're
no,
swapping out the
I've got it-
bodies. I'm trying to figure
I'm
out
glad I
where.
brought this, I got it listed here, so.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, I have
34
mine
is
here
the
too, because it was
10-wheeler.
like, who's on first, who's on second?
Oh, yeah, no, it's, so that's correct, okay,
Yeah, and then 37 is the six-wheel,
yes,
and that was the 213,000 lease
Yes.
purchase. 7 years on each one of those.
that's right.
And then we had what else did we have? The
We had
F-50
49's replacement, which is the bucket truck, the aerial bucket truck.
Yep,
So that's on a 5-year term.
yep, that was
and then-
158.
Yes, and then for 82, almost 83,000 was the chipper truck.
Chipper
with
truck,
a plow to
yeah.
accompany that,
And you
that
said you're
bucket
gonna have the
truck.
plow on it as well, right?
That's right, yep.
So that came out, the lease purchases, so for everybody, come out to $718,929.85. Those are your numbers.
That's, yep, that's
And those
spot
are
on.
those 4 vehicles. So you're gonna take 34's body, swap it with 31. That's what I was wondering. And, so we did a lot, we accomplished a lot with that lease purchase, but
We
that's
did.
gonna affect your budget for 23 through 25. You're gonna have less money to buy staples with, from about $125,000.
Well, we've built in some funds, right,
For the first
those
2
payments.
years.
Yeah, the first 2 years' payments were appropriated in a
Right.
separate article, right, at town meeting, so
Right.
for 21 and 22. And for FY 23, we'll now.
Which is what we're gonna be talking about here.
And there was provisions in the FY 22 budget for this, knowing this was coming. It was sort of discretionary, but it was built in FY 22's operating budget. FY 23 will propose the balance that we need to fund those lease payments.
Those lease payments,
out of
the
operating.
2.7 and the 2.5. Now, we're gonna own those trucks, and hopefully they're gonna have lives of close to 20 years. so-
Exactly, what we've seen with some of our
And
older
the interest being
equipment.
2% or 3%, somewhere in there, depending.
Yep.
But it's gonna hit you operationally through 25 at 1.25. And then after 25, I think you're at 75,000.
Yes,
gonna be out of
exactly.
your operating
The bucket truck and the chipper truck will
Truck
drop
will be-
off, and
right.
we'll pay the remainder of the terms on the 2 dump trucks.
So stock up on those paper clips.
Okay, so the next project, if there's no questions on that. Next
No.
project is a body replacement with a dump spreader and rail replacements on truck number 33. So again, this is a resubmission. This is a 2006 model year, 4-wheel drive truck. It's very integral really to our plowing operation. This does some of the steeper, hillier terrain in town. Cabin chassis is still, despite its age, is in great shape. I had a great picture though. This truck, the frame rails are in dire need of replacement. We had an instance, this truck actually had gone off the road a couple years back, I believe it was, in a bad winter. And those frame rails were twisted and racked basically. So now what we have, and in the picture we have the dump body is not sitting flush on those frame rails. So that was the picture I wanted to show, because now it's creating a lot of undue stress in certain other connections of that truck basically. And the gap it's a couple inches when it's supposed to be sitting flush. So it's pretty staggering, that picture anyways. So this would be for, we would send the truck out, it would basically get stripped down in its entirety for those frame rails to be custom manufactured and replaced before the truck is rebuilt essentially, and then we send it to our body vendor to get that body swapped out.
So it is bumper to bumper rails?
Yes, yeah,
Basically,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
You're doing the rails and the engine, right? Transit,
No,
or just the
The
rails?
rails and then the body, that's
That's it?
That's the extent of,
The
yeah.
engine and the trans and all that, the powertrain's all set.
That's exactly, yep.
To replace this truck, what would the cost be estimated?
Well, something equivalent, I mean, we'd be looking at something similar to the 10-wheeler probably for a
To
truck
the
of that size,
260,
250,000 call it
260,
anyways.
yeah, I figured.
260, so.
And so, what kind of life do you think we're gonna get out of this 150?
I think we'll get, with the age, the condition of that cab and chassis, we'd hope to get close to another 10 years out of it. I know it seems, we've stretched the life of this truck out now, and it's in good shape. I mean, we're putting forward this request because, in consultation with our fleet superintendent, they've been around since this truck first came into town, and,
So we're gonna
fairly
get 25,
confident.
we got 15 on it now, we send it out, we're gonna get another 10, so we have 25 years on this
25,
truck.
yeah, we'd say 10 years is maybe a little optimistic, but we would hope to get
Well, I'm
with
trying
this
to
sort of
weigh
investment.
good, you know,
Yeah, throwing good money after bad.
bad
and-
money, you know,
Yep.
are we doing that?
Yep,
And I'm, you know, that's what I'm looking at. You got 15 years on a truck and you're gonna put 150 in. You buy a new truck for around that.
Yeah.
250. And so there's a $100,000 difference.
Right, and what's the life expectancy for the new truck versus what you're gonna get out of this?
yeah.
Well, 20 years I hope, yeah.
Anyways, that's what we
Yeah,
would
20
hope
years
for.
on the new,
Okay.
so we're looking to get 10 on this, so it's,
You said
It's-
optimistically, so maybe more like 5 or 6.
Well, no, I'd err towards the higher end, yeah.
I'm just saying, I think we're off 50 grand here. If this,
Yeah.
if the request was 100, it would make sense, but at 150, you may want to hold them or fold them. I don't know if you want to go forward with it.
Yeah, we're sort of at
You're at a crossroads there.
a crossroads, exactly. In the cost, we've got new quotes here, I've got new quotes, so the cost has gone up since this was initially
Oh, yeah.
submitted, right? So
Well,
it's the
the
longer
other
we
thing, when
wait, the
Sean
longer the
brought
cost.
this, he was gonna do this in-house.
Yeah, I don't know what he,
I go back to, you got, how many guys? 30, what,
I'm not
two?
sure what in-house, because
I don't know
that
how
was
you're gonna-
never, we've done a similar repair like this before, and we had sent it out to the
But how do you-
two
how do you-
vendors, because it's,
I know the town garage, which needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
They have the hoist to lift up this body and pull out and do this.
yeah, but if you
I
can
just
imagine.
can't see you doing that in that garage
No,
facility.
it's a specialty vendor that does this.
Yeah.
The frame rail replacement, because literally, they went in when they had another truck done to see it, and the truck was completely dismantled, thousands of pieces. How anybody, they know enough
Put
to
it back
put
together.
everything back together? Not that, I mean, we have very talented folks down there, but it's a specialty craft to do this work, so.
Well, I'm just saying, when back in,
would
you know,
be-
he was mentioning
Yeah.
doing it in-house, and I was questioning how you could do it with 30, like you have everything else to do.
Yeah, of course, with the rest of the town's fleet, so.
But I question, you know, if it was 100,000, I'd say, yeah, but at 150, I'd say, I don't know. When you're looking at 265 for a 20-year new truck, maybe it's time to trade it and cut your losses. I don't know. I don't know what a new four-wheel goes. Now, this is different, because this is not just a 10-wheel, it's a four-wheel too. So it's
Yeah,
different, but I would look at that.
How long would you anticipate this vehicle being out of service to get these upgrades, et cetera, made?
It'll take a couple months anyways, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It'll take
Is this the type of thing that you would probably do during the summer or
Yeah,
something like that?
exactly, yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so that we have this back for our winter operation, yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Do we need it for this season?
I hope not, but it looks like we will. My feeling is that we are going to. You know, that's another thing, when you budget for snow removal and salt and the labor to plow the snow and all that, we budget conservatively. Not a lot of towns do that. We try to get actual. We don't, you know, lower and hope for the best. Well, last year was good, so the budget, I'm sure, that comes back in free cash if we don't spend the money. The snow, if Mother Nature's kind to us, whatever we budgeted for snow removal, if it's less than that, that's the next year's free cash. That people, I wonder, where does this free cash go? There's a good area where free cash, of course, it could come the other way. It
Right.
could be, where we go into contingency funds if it was beyond what we conservatively budgeted for. But we are very prudent in our budgeting for snow removal. A lot of the communities don't. They lowball it and hope for the best.
Yeah, and
We've
that's
never
why I
done.
asked about the current season, was whether we were gonna make it.
Yeah,
through
we
the
don't,
current season.
we've historically, this community has not done that. Other communities historically have. They've lowball it and hope for the best. We try to get as close to actual as we can best determine, but, yeah. All right. Next item.
Next item is to replace number 53, truck number 53, with an F-550 crew truck. So the number 53 is a service truck in our highway division. It's a model year 2006, 5,700 hours approximately, which is equivalent to over 188,000 engine miles. It has about 77,000 on the odometer. But essentially, it's got 17 years of wear and tear on it, and it's undersized for our crew. I mean, we've got at least a three-person highway crew that's typical going to a job that two guys can fit into that truck presently right now. It has no crew cab on it, so And the service body in the back, I had some nice pictures of it, as well as, you know, between the service body, the storage in the back with tools, it's just overflowing, this truck. So we'd be looking to increase the size and capacity storage area of that truck for our highway division. So I wish I had the pictures again to show, unfortunately.
So we'll be replacing this vehicle.
Yes,
And the,
with a plow too. This truck
Yeah,
is,
man,
this.
I
this-
asked you, yeah.
Yep, yeah, this truck, we actually do put a plow on it presently as sort of a backup if need be. And we would do the same with the new truck. It would come with the plow.
And now, this would not have to be a four-wheel vehicle, though, would it? No,
No.
no. All right. Any questions on that?
Nope.
All right. Next item.
Okay, so this is to replace number 44 with a new dump spreader. So it's a model year 2005 dump truck. Presently, we would replace it with a new combination dump truck with spreader body. Current truck has over 5,000 hours and a little over 50,000 miles on it. By FY24, when we're proposing replacement, it'll be 19 years old and need to be replaced.
Okay, and that's 250, and that's for FY '24.
That's right. So this is a truck similar to the ones that we've had other replacements that is simply at its end of its life, both the cab and chassis,
Is this
the
a
body. It's
six-wheel?
this is
Okay. Because we just replaced one for the
for two.
213.
Yeah, exactly. So
So hopefully it'll be less.
hopeful that it'll be less, right? But we
Well,
never know until we go out.
inflation, I don't know, who knows?
Well, that's
right?
just it. You know, we're going out into FY24.
The
so.
damn tires on these things, anything that touches petroleum, if it's rubber or whatever.
And that, again, with that six-wheeler, that was already, again, sitting at Ballard Mac, essentially, waiting for us. So there was, that truck was sort of already procured in a sense, right? Where, you know, if we have to go out now, they were kind of anticipating us purchasing this. So I think it ended up, we got it at a premium, you know, or a discount rather, in a sense. So I would expect that cost not to stay static over FY '23, '24. It's going to probably go up from the 214,
13, yeah.
213 and change. So
So Jared, do you put bids out to all the vendors, like International and Mac, and
Yes,
see
yep.
whoever comes up with
yeah, we put out a spec. I mean, we've typically our spec is mimicked, you know, a Mack truck. That's what we've been getting for the past couple, and that's what the last combo dump spread. I don't know the number offhand, but the ones in the lease purchase program, 37 and 30. Let me see. Those are both Macks, the 10-wheeler and the new 6-wheeler. So that's kind of what we're trying to make our new standard. But we put out an RFQ. We're required to. They're under state contract, so there's only certain vendors that can bid and submit quotes on these trucks. But it is
Just
you know,
like the fire, he was
Yep.
explaining, Chief McDonald was explaining that they do all the bid work preliminarily, and then you come in on top of that, so that
Yep.
they've already done their due diligence as far as
Exactly.
the vendors you're gonna be speaking to.
the
You have a
prices have
list.
mostly been negotiated already,
Already,
right, as part of
pretty
that.
much. Then
that
you
state
spec
bidding,
what you
state
want.
contract process. So that's right.
Kinda makes it easy on you. They've already browbeat them pretty much as to what, and spec them so that there's nothing missing that
Yeah.
needs to be on a truck that you might have overlooked. And then, so they've done all that for you, so then you just hone in and finish it.
So out of curiosity, for any of these spreaders or these salt trucks, is there an increased risk to the overall road integrity or structure if you change out or you have different, I don't know, weights of the truck or different sizes? I'm wondering about the road integrity because we do a lot of salting in this area, I think.
Sure. So from the weight of the truck or just the salt itself?
Well, yeah, the size and the different utility on the truck. I just didn't know if there was any impact.
No, I mean, most of these are sort of, they're not replacements in kind per se, but the GVW, the gross vehicle weight is sort of proximate, right? From the new to the old, so it's not like we're increasing those,
Okay. And there's no
those
additional
loads,
risk from like the technology, the way that the trucks operate.
no.
Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't want to be driving one of the, or
No.
riding in one of these things on some of the roads. I mean, you have to have a football helmet on and,
Right.
and a
what I
belt
was thinking.
because you're bouncing. I don't know how these guys do it. I mean, and stay on the road, you know, as you're bouncing, as you're coming down.
Oh, yeah.
And going up.
And some of them are very narrow too.
Yeah,
You know,
I
so-
don't know how they do it. I think it'd be a good education for some people to do a ride-along to see just what.
Part of the sell for increased roadway funding, right, is the less wear and tear on the town's fleet, right? And,
Oh, yeah.
and more effective snow plowing, right? It's much easier to plow a new road than,
I've seen you welding the plows and they're,
Oh, yeah.
they're cracked, the blades, yeah. All right.
okay, so, moving on, another FY '24 request is to replace backhoe number 56 with a new backhoe plus attachments. Attachments we're talking about, this is the Highway Division backhoe. That's a model year 2002 with about 8,800 hours on it. So it's over 21 years old at this point, and it's really showing its age. We had some pictures of that as well, so showing some corrosion, and there's been myriad repairs that we've actually done. A couple larger repairs actually this year on that very piece. So the idea would be to replace it with a new backhoe plus some attachments, including a twister wrist bucket on the rear boom. Basically functions sort of like your hand would function, right?
So you can just
So to give
pull
it-
up and dump.
Yep, so you
on
can,
the
you
side.
get some more versatility, or capabilities rather, for our highway crew. And then a detachable front to actually attach a plow to that backhoe, so that we could use it in the winter, as we do with the current number 56. So that's a $175,000 request. Any questions? Okay. Next request is $275,000 in FY '25. This is to replace number 43 with a new wheel loader, so a new front end loader. Current machine's a model year 2006, 6,600 hours on it. Generally recommend to replace a loader at 10,000 hours, so we obviously would continue to put hours in until, or we will until FY '25. Projected to have about 8,100 hours, so we're under that threshold, but certainly be up against it, and we want to try to forego any significant maintenance costs, right? So we're trying to get out ahead of that replacement. So this number 43, we use it all year round, from snow removal into the summer construction season, so very versatile piece of equipment.
Is this the truck you use to load the salt onto the dump truck?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yep. And we use it on all of the jobs that you see our highway division crew that are doing around town. They're typically loading stone, aggregate, backfilling with this piece of equipment, so.
All right, any questions on that?
Nope.
Where does that bring us?
Okay, next request is also FY '25, is to replace the current trailer chipper, the Forestry Division's trailer chipper with a new trailer chipper. So the current model year of that chipper is 2002, so it's approaching 20 years old, and I don't have the hours in here. They were about 2,000 hours on that machine, so it's certainly ending the end of its useful life. I know, Mr. Yule, you had asked a question about this very request, and about if this was hindering the capabilities of the new forestry equipment that we had purchased as part of the lease purchase program, the new bucket truck. The short answer is no. We still have a functioning chipper. This chipper is still functioning and will be when we get the new trucks. It can accommodate up to about a 12-inch diameter tree. The idea is that if we're now getting equipment with a new bucket truck with higher reach, where we have maybe some more internal capabilities to do some more tree removal in-house, is that we have a trailer chipper to go along with that. We can upsize that for a larger diameter tree, let's say 15-inch or something even greater than that. So that's the idea, to replace the old but also upsize it to go along with hopefully expanding our capabilities, internal capabilities.
I was just wondering, if this shouldn't be moved forward. We're looking to FY '25
Yeah. Yep.
because of to get the value once we get the aerial truck, and I know that we're trying to mitigate right now. I heard your chainsaws this morning out there, out on Charlton, somewhere around there, cutting some trees. I mean, we're trying to get ahead of the winter. We're trying to get ahead of storm remediation and power outage. So those are two things that affect us in New England. And we're trimming the trees now in anticipation that there could be otherwise trees in the roadways, and we got and external storm damage, and then the power outages that seem to coincide with that. So I know you're doing the best you can to get ahead of it, but I just, throughput, I was looking at ROI, we got this, we don't have it yet, I realize, but we're going to have it. If this shouldn't be, maybe, if not now, next year, maybe could move that item up from 2025 to maybe 24.
Okay.
I don't know, just the thought when I was when I'm looking at what you're talking about in previous years as far as maintaining and the performance, and time being money. You got 32 guys in labor. I mean, this would be help them to be more effective and efficient in trying to do what they have to do every season to prepare us for the winter. Just was a thought.
No, point well taken.
So I know that they have all sorts of different kinds of, tree service and tree planning, especially when you consider like the environmental impacts and things like that. I'm just wondering if there's any of that type of assessment that goes in, or if this is just for reactionary, there's an impact to the power line and you have to cut the limb down, or does it
I think
include
they try to get
preventative
ahead of
measures
it.
as
No,
well?
you have
Yeah, we're proactive. I mean, for a lot of the our priority tree list work, we do have contracted service that we
Yeah.
use, right? We've
and,
got
and National Grid does too,
and
but
anything around the wires, right? We can't
They try
touch
to,
that.
yeah.
So,
Right.
yes, they do as well. I'm sure you saw there was several trucks early this year, right,
Right.
from National Grid that were going around town. And again, we do that with town trees, priority trees. We've got them ranked from 1 to 3, 1 being highest priority. So we've been doing that. We've actually had some supplemental, there was appropriation for priority tree work that we're still working through and spending. And we've made great progress, whittling down that list of trees. We've got hundreds on there, so we've nearly cut that in half, at least our priority 1 trees. So, no, certainly proactive, but yeah, there's obviously during storm events, we had a couple instances this summer, right, with some of these high wind events where we're reactionary.
Right, and the reason I was thinking about that is if you are using those kinds of services with contractors, then maybe it's more beneficial to use those services in other areas too. Just wondering how those contracts work and if they have the specialized equipment that you might need in a reactionary case,
Sure, even with the expanded capabilities, the increased reach with the new bucket truck, we're never gonna be a tree company,
Right.
right? And nor do I think should we be, right?
Right.
But we should be able to do, if we can reduce the amount we're spending in contracted tree work, then we'll do that, right? Well, if we have the right equipment, obviously. But there's gonna be trees, there's gonna be instances that we need their equipment
Right.
and their expertise. They do it every day, so it costs more, though, simply put. It costs more. We're paying them prevailing wage. But if there's some things that are sort of on the fringe between, do we call the contracted tree company in, or maybe we can handle this? That's what we're hoping to gain, is that ability, with this equipment. Maybe bring a little bit more in-house, so.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to get at that differential between those two costs,
Okay.
the contracting versus increasing the truck here, so, makes sense.
okay, any other thoughts, comments? All right. Well, just something to think about, whether it belongs in 24 or 25. Next item.
Next item is replacing truck number 32 with a new dump spreader. So similar scope to what you've seen earlier here in the program. These recurring dump body replacements. So it's a model year 2005 spreader truck. Current truck has 7,500 hours, 61,000 miles. By FY 2026, it'll be 20 years old. We need to replace. So sorry, this is a full truck replacement, not a body replacement. So again, a 250,000. So this is similar to one of the other requests in here. Same sort of thing. 6-wheel dump truck.
Right.
Again, 250,000, we're programmed out a few years here. Hopefully that's conservative, and it'll come in slightly lower than that, but that's what we've got it figured for at the moment.
Do we have an increased obligation for salt spreading, being in the low salt area of west of 90? I'm just wondering if that impacts us
I think
at
there's
all.
some areas we use liquid. You have that liquid,
We don't do any pre-treating now, we're just treated, it's a treated magnesium chloride, rock salt that we've been using for the past several years.
yeah, what about that liquid that you were using? You stopped using that?
We haven't, yeah, I think way back, I know there was some tanks down there, I don't even think when I was here first go around that we were using that, that might have been several years ago.
I know they're big on it in Connecticut.
Yeah, they are, I mean, there's some people feel strongly that that's the way to go, right? You pre-treat with the liquid
liquid.
brine, is basically what it is. We tend to put salt down before a storm, and you get that, once the moisture hits that, it sort of forms that brine anyways. So there's different theories behind which way is the best, but I think we've had some pretty
Is
good
it
track
brine or is
record.
it kind of an alcohol thing? Is it less salty or less corrosive, I should say? Probably a better way of.
The actual liquid, if they're pre-treating, there might be some additives, yeah. I mean, our salt has a corrosion inhibitor in it, so we put out a specification, we bid that out every year. We have corrosion inhibitors
Yeah.
specified for our
I know
salt.
that I-395 from our state line down,
Mm-hmm.
haven't driven it daily for a long time. They pre-treat with it's a kind of an alcohol-based type.
Yeah, it could be,
Not a
yeah.
salt-based, and they pre-treat.
Yeah.
And coming up 395, it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're big on it in the communities in Putnam and Danielson and those Thompson and those areas. I know,
Mm-hmm.
familiar with that they use that pre-treat liquid. We don't, right?
Yeah, we don't. We've been putting down, we've played with, at the beginning, from what I understand, when we started with the pre-treated salt, or the treated salt rather, we played with the application rates, how many pounds per mile, we were putting down, and we feel like we've got that at a pretty good sweet spot now. Where Oxford's roads in a lot of instances are black when other communities are not. It's evident when you cross over, so not to knock
Oh,
any
yeah,
of our
right,
neighbors,
right,
but.
No, coming up the pike, coming back from the airport, many a night, on a inclement winter night, coming back from someplace, I knew I was in Sutton, and I didn't need to know, that I was welcome to Oxford to see the sign, welcome to Oxford. The road got black immediately. It was, welcome to Oxford, you're in Oxford now. I was passing the Rod and Gun Club, and I knew I was in Oxford because the road was black, and it wasn't all the way up from the turnpike from 146. And I know, and I'm going back, your predecessor's predecessor, John Phillips, 20 years ago. You guys have
No, they've done a great job for a long time.
big
so,
difference
yep.
in road conditions. Having drive through other communities to get here.
I'll never understand the off-ramps in Massachusetts, though. That's a whole nother.
Okay, next request, fiscal year 2027 is replacing number 39 dump truck with a new F-350 dump truck.
All right.
So looking at 2012 model year. So this is getting out, again, planning ahead here, obviously, for trucks that were purchased, well, not too long ago, right, in the grand scheme. These are the smaller trucks, though, that contribute to our plowing operations, as well, plowing school parking lots, that sort of thing. This is actually truck 39, used year-round, as I mentioned, but this is specifically for our highway division crews that you'll see going around, doing pothole patching, that sort of thing throughout the summer months as well.
Where's this at here? I'm looking for 39.
39, it's $80,000 request.
Oh, yeah, here it is.
For FY '27.
Okay, got it
Yep.
now. Yep, now I'm on your page.
So that's both of these next requests, actually. I mean, between 39 and 48, it's the same request, two different trucks, but planning that replacement after 14, 15 years or so of wear and tear.
Okay. This is the same as you said, 40, right?
39 and 48.
48?
Yep, so they're both $80,000 requests for FY '27, both 2012 model years.
There you go.
One is for the highway division, one is for the cemetery and grounds division. So these are replacements of current, existing trucks.
So 40,
48 has a lot less miles, it seems like, in crewing. Is that just based on how you're using it, or?
Yeah, I mean, again, the highway division crew, they could be all over town, right? Whereas the cemetery crew, it might be more idle time, although the hours are less on 48.
So you're really looking at the engine miles and not necessarily the.
Engine miles, yeah, hours are always a big thing, because there is some idle time with these trucks, obviously, more so than the miles. So I know sometimes, you look at the miles and, you say that it doesn't even have 100,000 or even 75,000 miles. We think about running our vehicles, right, well beyond 100,000 miles in most cases, but these trucks are different, right? And just the nature of the work they're doing too, it's more wear and tear.
I'm trying to, in my mind here, so replacing 39, and I'm looking for 48.
48 should be the next request, sorry,
Oh.
Mr. Yule, yeah.
Okay,
I just was saying, same
Now I
truck,
got it.
same, yep,
now I got
same
it.
dollar value.
You're ahead of me one page,
just-
okay.
Yeah, exactly,
All
I
right,
just
now
figured
I'm,
maybe.
now I'm with you. All right,
knock
so
out
they're
two
the
birds
same
with one
vehicle.
stone.
They're the same, okay, it's like a repeat and repeat.
Yep,
So-
exactly. One's for highway, one's for cemetery and grounds division.
And they're both, you said, projected at their estimated end of life.
It'll be around 14, 15 years or so of use at that point, so
All right,
for that size truck, that's certainly the case.
all right. So 48's the same, so then the next item is 61?
That's right. So this is the trackless machine that I'm sure most of you've seen, either doing brush trimming, roadside trimming, with the boom flail attachment, and also plowing sidewalks in the winter. So it's a very, very versatile piece of equipment, very necessary piece of equipment. Also very temperamental. We found that these things age quick. They take a lot of abuse because of how versatile and the varied scope of work that they undertake. So the current trackless is 2010. So, projecting out FY27, it's already at 3,000 hours on it. The miles, again, is indicative of, the wear and tear is so much of the hours. But by FY27, it'll have 16 years of use, plowing sidewalks and doing that roadside trimming work, among other tasks, so.
I've ever seen plowed sidewalks. No, I guess I'm not in that part of town.
I've seen
Yeah,
it-
it's always
I've seen them
tough.
go down Charlton Street with them.
Yep, yeah, we've had, unfortunately, it's a capacity issue at times, right? Do we have the staffing available? We need to cover our snowplow routes first, right? Unfortunately, we've got to prioritize somehow. So last year, we kind of fell into that where sometimes we couldn't get to plowing the sidewalks till the day after a storm, till we had people freed up. We had the manpower to do them, so.
Well, and some of the
But we strive to
sidewalks,
do 'em.
people have the mailboxes, like, right in the middle of the. does that
Yeah,
get in the
that's
way, or the-
exactly. Anything new that we've done, you may have seen like up on Sutton Ave, Leicester Street, we've tried to arrange them in such a way where we have clearance. We know what we need for clearance, so we're always, on new construction, we're out there measuring for this very purpose to make sure that they can
I've seen that
navigate.
on 56 now. They have the
Navigate.
sidewalk, they have the mailboxes on 56 going up to 20 there on the sidewalk.
Yeah, we did that as part of, that was back in 2016, when we did that. We reconstructed the road and the sidewalk as well, and we actually, we drafted up a detail for that and ran it by the postmaster at the time, because that's not standard, obviously, to
No.
arrange them that way, but it was to maximize clearance, not only for maintenance and plowing, but for ADA purposes too. Anybody in a wheelchair, you need X amount.
Very hard to push a stroller on those sidewalks.
Yeah, that too. So it maximizes the clearance. But no, that's certainly a consideration. I mean, we have this, we've got the trackless machine, we have a little skid steer as well that we do some sidewalk plowing with. But this tends to be a more efficient, faster piece of equipment to do it.
And I know you go through town and do it.
Yep.
Then it becomes
We do all of the state's sidewalk.
then you're fighting between the guy plowing the road and you're pushing this, and there's no
Sometimes,
place in
yeah,
between.
exactly, yep.
It's like deja vu all over again,
Yep,
right?
that's right. But all the way up and down Main Street, despite the fact, again, we do this on on state sidewalks, and it's never been clear. It's sort of this unspoken thing that most towns do. You plow, you maintain the state sidewalk, even though you don't maintain the road. So there's quite a length of sidewalk that we're responsible for, and this machine bears the brunt of that work.
All right.
So that's a $150,000 request for FY '27. And then the final fleet request is actually for a purchase of an additional piece, a new mini excavator. Not noted here is that it may be a rubber-tired mini excavator. Rubber tractor, rubber-tired, leaning towards rubber-tired, just for the versatility, mobility of that machine, to actually be able to drive it, over the road if it was registered from site to site, essentially. So that would lend us a lot of increased capabilities we don't have right now. We've got backhoes, but we don't have an excavator with that 360-degree motion in versatility. That's usually a lot more efficient, both for digging and loading, backfilling. So this would be an FY '28 request for $150,000 to add this piece of equipment to our fleet. And forego any rentals. We typically, when we have a project where we know we need to be more efficient, we typically will rent a mini excavator. And
What's the cost to rent those normally?
You can rent obviously by the week, by the day. Sometimes you rent up to 3 days, and it's more cost effective just to rent for the week after that. But it could be $1,000, $2,000 a week depending on the size.
Getting it on site, getting it off site is also a charge.
Yeah, mobilizing.
So
That's right.
if you rent it for a week, there's a delivery charge, and then there's the recovery charge. So it's like $500 to bring it to you, and it's like $500 to bring it to take it back.
Yeah.
And then it's so much a day. So if you rent it for a day, your delivery charge is going to be your rental fee.
What we try to do
done
is,
that.
if we have other projects identified, we'll try to
it
knock
out.
off more than, you know what I mean, when we do rent.
How many projects do you typically do like this?
Again, a lot of times we just say, you know what, we'll forego renting it and we'll just do it with the backhoe. So, if you add those projects in where we could have had efficiency gain with having this equipment, and we would just use it, we wouldn't say, all right, well, we'll bite the bullet, we'll use the backhoe, even though it's gonna take us a day or two longer. It's several. We're using that throughout the construction season regularly. With the drainage work, hopefully, we posted some of that stuff on Facebook, trying to get out there that we're doing infiltration chamber or infiltration galley installations on roads now. A lot. We've probably done 3 of those this year, and we've got another one planned on a road that we need to install before the winter. That's just one example, though, of work. The drainage work in the roadway. It could be, the work that you see happening down at the bandstand. We're excavating out a large area for the handicap ramp.
Handicap, yeah.
Right? So those projects, there's several. We could have dozens of those projects in a given construction season. So there's a lot of efficiency to be gained with the proper equipment. So
You're going to be able to finish that, Jocelyn, bandstand, do you think, before winter?
that will be poured. Yep, the walls and everything will be poured, and we'll have it backfilled. The intent was not to finish it 100%. Unfortunately, we'll secure the site after it's backfilled. We were trying to schedule around events and weddings and things that were planned throughout the summer and fall.
So it may not have all the grass and plants, but
Maybe not in the early spring, unfortunately, but we'll hit the ground running in the spring to do the rest of the.
But the structure itself will be in place.
The structure itself will be there, yep, and we need to do, we'll do a brick facade, basically to match the existing
So that
bandstand,
matches
so
the-
that'll happen in the
The
spring.
skirt of the bandstand.
Yep,
yeah.
and then we need to do the pipe rail fabrication and installation, so there's quite a bit of work there, but, that'll be.
Now, that's the first step of making the park ADA compliant. We're talking in the future.
Yeah, there's some other sidewalk work that we'll probably do internally,
and
we've got some
handicap
skilled.
parking to the back.
That's right.
of the
Yep.
park.
It's all part of, so that was a
Master plan.
Smolenski-Millette grant to do the ramp, to do some parking.
Everything will come together.
Yeah, it'll come together nicely, actually, too. We actually prioritize some roadway repairs on East Main Street, addition of granite curbing around there, as well as Water Street, which we should be seeing those repairs happen before the winter, at least the pulverizing of the road and the base course of asphalt. We're actually going to try to get done before winter, before the end of this month. And then we'll come in with the final paving next summer, or next spring, I should say, as well as that handicap parking.
Parking,
you
so that
spoke
now,
about, Mr.
so now
Yule.
they, now that we've got a park that is accessible,
Yep.
where do they park, and how do they
exactly.
enter and exit the park?
So 4 handicap spots off
Right.
of East Main is the plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Any thoughts, comments, questions? All right, what do we have next on the agenda?
I was gonna go to highway
Highway,
requests.
roads.
That's right, roads, bridges.